Hi, I'm Rigger. This is You're Right, and we're down to the wire on the Volume 9 finale. So, I wanted to make just a more casual video for fun where I go over predictions for the finale and also what I hope will happen, which are different things. I gotta say, going over it, I realize my actual predictions are pretty conservative, honestly. I don't know, I just feel like there aren't any major curveballs we're gonna get thrown here, although I could easily be wrong. I think the biggest card they have to play is whatever we get a peek at the end. I think that's where the big unexpected thing might happen. I still assume that's going to happen, that's the way they'll play the episode. It'd be stupid not to, so whatever that is, I feel is the best chance for a crazy left turn that no one saw coming. But let's just run down the elements involved in the finale, character by character, step by step, and we'll have a look. First up is, of course, Ruby Rose. So Ruby is currently ascending, and obviously we're not in danger of Ruby being totally different, I don't think. You know, the memory wipes and all that. I don't think any of that's going to happen because it really stamps on the whole point of character development and having a legacy character through the show like this, especially a main character. So I wouldn't be afraid of that. But there are certainly some discussions to happen about what will change and what might happen, because it would feel very odd for completely nothing to change for her to come back out. It could happen, but you're never really going to have this opportunity again, so you'd hope for some differences, something to stand out, something to mark that transition between the Ruby before and the Ruby now. But for my actual prediction, I do think she'll largely be the same for a couple reasons. One is she's an iconic character, she's the face of the franchise. I don't know if they'll really want to mess with it too much, especially to the point where, like, you wouldn't recognize her, that kind of thing. On a physical level, I can imagine, like, a hair change, maybe a height change. I do wonder if that might come about because she actually wants to not be a kid anymore, because they've constantly brought up that they were unprepared, that Ruby felt unprepared. You know, they were children. Obviously, a physical change doesn't alter her actual maturity, but I wonder if it might happen anyway because it's like in her subconscious that one of the problems is that they didn't know how to deal with all this because they were just kids, and maybe it would affect some physical changes. Though if it did, I'd maybe put her more on the level with just the others, like the plus 2 years in development. You know, just feel like an adult, feel on par with her team. Maybe, it's just a fleeting thought. I wouldn't make her a full adult or anything, because again, it kind of looks strange with the others and that kind of thing, so maybe. But an outfit and hair change seem pretty likely, just to show there's a difference, you know, just so they are looking different going in and out. If they want a drastic change, long hair could do it. I know it doesn't make sense for, like, battles, but who cares, you know, it's anime stuff. My prediction is not much of a change, except hair and outfit, honestly. What I want is a more drastic change. Maybe, again, age her up a bit, change up her height, and when they do the outfit, this is the thing, like, if they're just doing an outfit, make it radically different. I've talked about this before, like, her outfit in canon seems to be based heavily off her mother, and I think the lesson we're learning is to not just become your mother. So, like, no more skirts, or no more corset, or even a totally new color scheme, something like that. Except not white. Don't make her take on the white, because again, that's the same issue. That's not what we want. My other thought is that even if they don't change the colours, if they say that these are Ruby's colour scheme and they don't want to change them, actually invert how heavy they are. So, usually her outfits are a base of black and nowadays greys and browns, and the reds are like the highlights, like the skirt and the cape. But what if you didn't do that and actually made her predominantly red with black touches? So, rather than, say, a black top with, like, red buttons and red strings, the other way, where it's a red top with black buttons or black strings. You could do something like that, although you'd have to work on it because it could be very dominating to the eye, which is where I'd change up the outfit. I don't think her wearing a red leather corset is really the right sort of thing to do. I don't know, it doesn't feel right, so that's where I'd say change up a lot of the outfit. So it feels very different, where Ruby owns herself and who she really wants to be. I said that about the hair too. I just say long hair because it's a drastic difference, and you'd really notice it, but it could even go shorter if she's making her hair shorter because that's what she wants. You could, like, cut it right down. But I feel like they're not going to go too much shorter, because you could, like, give her a mohawk or something crazy, but I feel like then it's not going to read as Ruby, it's going to feel off. So I would just say they go the other way and give her long hair. Also, that's kind of magical, right? Like, you can always cut hair, but you can never just force it to grow, so that implies a change that's been done beyond the powers of humans. Speaking of the hair as well, it's always seemed, especially due to its inconsistency, that the red bits in her hair are an allusion to her mother, who actually seems to have totally red hair, although it gets darker, but it's still all red. Ditch that. Just have her have completely black hair. Have her own that. Unless you wanted to make her hair red, but then, again, it's like turning into her mother, so no, just let that go. You know, just have black hair. Unless people are trying to claim that it's natural, I don't know how the genetics on Remnant work, none of this makes any sense with their parents, so whatever. The big physical trait to talk about is actually silver eyes, and honestly, I considered what if she gave them up. Not like she gets rid of her eyes, but she loses her power. She doesn't want the gift anymore and the responsibility that comes with it. They're like a curse, a responsibility inherited from her mother that she didn't ask for, and her mother didn't ask for either. I really like that, actually depowering herself by taking away what makes her special for personal growth just to become who she wants to be, but I think for story that's not going to happen. I think they're going to be a useful tool, so I think she's more going to learn how to use them, or in what ways she can sort of use them, maybe against Salem. That's more I think she might learn than giving them away. Especially since the transition we saw when she first saw the reflection of her mother was the silver eyes flash to her leaving the smithing shop. So, I feel like that's going to be important and central to what we're doing. Also, we should talk about her emblem. We were told it's going to come back, so it's going to come back. I predict it will come back, but she might modify it. I think that's what she'll do, is change it, maybe reshape it a different look at the rose, or have some elements around it to make it her own. That's not what I want though. What I actually would want her to do is discard it, to have a completely new emblem, her own image, to not hold on to her mother's promise that she can no longer fulfill due to her own mistakes, but let herself grow past that. And the symbol could be, again, more like a ruby than a rose. Like, what if she had a red gem or something? That could be cool. Although, honestly, now I say that, the original emblem, but having the rose parts highlighted by jewels, like there's ruby set in a rose pattern to the base, that actually kind of feels more like what they might do, because it's Ruby putting her own ruby stamp on the rose, the ruby in the rose. I could understand if they did something like that, but I think that's what it'll be. I guess they could just have her pick it up and just continue using it, but I feel like you get more out of doing something with it. Next, we have Crescent Rose. I mean, it fell too. I've wanted to change it for a while, but I don't think they will. I think the lesson will be to pick up her own weapon, not her mother's or someone else's, and it will remain the same. I want it augmented, maybe even repainted, but I just can't see it happening. It's sort of very iconic. As opposed to me saying Ruby should go all red. I did, a long time ago, try inverting the colours, although they look a little blue here, but you get the point, of turning it into the Black Rose, and that was a cool image of an idea. But I don't think we're doing that. I think we're supposed to move away from the dark colours and the depression themes of Ruby, having a rebirth and becoming someone else. That's why I think that shedding some black off her outfit might symbolically help, because it feels like maybe she was in mourning. That's why she always dressed in black, especially in her first design. Even though she was so chipper, she was wearing black and only the red was sort of peeking out. I would actually like it if they then, lent into all the red, like I said, making her predominantly red. But back to Crescent Rose, it's probably the most iconic and recognizable thing in the whole series. When people see it, they know it's Ruby. When people have never heard of Ruby, they go, whoa, look at that weapon. It's tied to the Red trailer. People heavily tie it to Monty, obviously, so we're probably just not touching it. You could do something super goofy, like put Summer Rose's spirit in Crescent Rose to talk to her or something, but let's not go into all that. Magic weapons and weapons with souls, I like the idea for another story or at another time, but I don't think that's what Ruby needs. The idea that Crescent Rose fell with her and it itself is ascending is an idea, but implying that the weapon actually has wants and desires might be taking a little bit away from our hero's spiritual journey here, so I'll probably stick with that. So if there is a difference, hopefully it actually reflects Ruby herself. As much as I liked the Copper Rose idea I talked about a while ago, the whole point of this journey seems to be not hanging on to past failures and letting those you've lost not define you, and I think that applies to Penny as well. Again, not forget them, it's not a bad thing, it's just don't let their loss dictate your entire future. I did also think about her actually ditching the hood and cape that I've talked about before. Again, she's Little Red Riding Hood, so maybe she shouldn't, but those are things that she definitely wears because of her mother, and both of those things probably is something she's supposed to grow past and become herself, so if she outgrew her inspirations, literally outgrew Summer Rose and outgrew Little Red Riding Hood, that would be something, especially with long hair, because putting long hair in a hood can be annoying, but I don't know, I feel like it's so iconic they're not going to ditch it. I don't know, there's just a vision of Ruby I can see in, pants and like a shirt and jacket, and it's predominantly red with little black bits, and she has a black weapon to stand out against it and long black hair that sort of pops against her red outfit. I'm not even exactly sure what that image looks like, but just something totally different you weren't expecting. But anyway, let's move on. Next is Summer Rose herself. Pretty simple, what do I think will happen with Summer Rose? Well, honestly, what I expect to happen is a ghost conversation with her mother, that her mother will directly talk to her and maybe show her some stuff. Maybe she does or doesn't show Ruby stuff, but I feel like she's going to. There's going to be a lesson, but I feel like Summer's actually going to talk to Ruby, and I don't want that. I really hope they don't. What I want is for RWBY to not get to speak to her mother across the veil of death, but instead simply to see what happened, to get context, to understand why Summer did what she did, and what the mistake was there, and what she can learn from it. See scenes from Summer's life, a flashback, and, take those lessons, learn that being Summer is not the answer to all things, but also perhaps learn something to help. On a personal level as well. Recently I brought up that she might also learn, she sees Summer face down Salem and try her silver eyes, and it does have an effect, but it doesn't, destroy Salem. Maybe it burns away some of the Grimm, something like that, and RWBY learns that's a tactic they might have to use later, and probably will, but then, it doesn't solve the issue. She's still immortal, and she can still re-grimmify herself, and it didn't work all the way. Just a little bit of knowledge so that it feels like our trip here, we actually learn something to deal with the bad guy, or to help start dealing with the bad guy. But mostly, it's there to understand Summer, and to understand that becoming Summer is not the thing to do, but it doesn't let RWBY talk to Summer. It doesn't take away the loss. You don't get the full closure of mother and daughter having a conversation with each other. She's still lost. She's still gone. She's still not coming back. You still have to remember that and not make those same mistakes. You can't undo that by just having a conversation. That's what I hope for, but I don't think that's what we're going to get. Next is Jean. I think he'll also ascend. That's what I think will happen. Probably get his age reversed and come back with them to Remnant, obviously. I don't want that to be the case for it to go down like that. Honestly, even if it happens off-screen, having Jean also ascend feels a bit too much like double-dipping here. We have one character who is the mainest of the main characters going through this mystical, magical journey. So doing it twice at the same time kind of lessens that a bit. I think what will happen, though, is it's basically the same. Jean will get in there and reach for Pyrrha's spear, although I think he might actually pick it up. That she's the hero he can never be. And it's not about living up to his family, it hasn't been that for a long time. It's Pyrrha, the one he not just loved and lost, but also that she was so great at everything, better than he could ever be, and could probably save the people he failed to save if she was in his place. And I think it'll be a similar lesson. Pyrrha probably will talk to him again, because they have, the model and the voice, so she'll talk to him from across the veil of death, tell him how great he is, and not to be sad, and that, he already is the hero he wanted to be, and no one's perfect, and she died, and, she isn't perfect either, to forgive himself, to be the hero that he is by realizing that he is. It's literally the same lesson as RWBY as well. Don't hold on to those things. I should say, I'm fine with them both learning the same lesson. That's not the problem here. It completely applies to both of them and is a hard lesson for everyone to learn. But if that was the case, I'd prefer them learn it in a different way. RWBY takes one route and Jean takes another route, and they both learn the same lesson in a different way, showing the different paths you could take to arrive at that. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to just be basically the same. A talk with our dead loved ones to find closure and be rejuvenated and renewed. Jean will be young again, and RWBY will hopefully remove a lot of the Summer influence. I'd actually like talking about influence and weapons and stuff. If Jean's weapon actually rejected out the bits of Pyrrha that he put in, a bit of Pyrrha's armor. Not in a mean way, in a stop holding on to this. You don't need to carry this mistake with you. Again, not forgetting Pyrrha, but you don't need to hold on to that. She can take off the red tie around his hair, the last bit of red that he carries for her. It's okay. I think a big thing about that too is choice. Again, forgive yourself for others' choices, Pyrrha chose to go up in that tower. Penny chose what she asked for. It wasn't your fault that people made their own choices, and possibly even their own mistakes, just because you couldn't save everyone. I think that's the lesson. And like I said, it would be great if all that was removed from Jean and he could be his own person again, learning from Pyrrha but not having to carry her with him. But I don't think they'll do that. Also, Jean's weapon will be fixed, obviously, or more likely, it might actually be replaced by Pyrrha's weapon, that it's the sword from the family and legacy he couldn't live up to, but instead he takes the sword of a fallen hero who he wants to live up to, and again, it has a short sword form he can use, and it has a spear that is a bit like a lance for a knight, and it gives him range options so he can use that. I don't like it, but I think they might do it where he casts aside the broken sword and lets Pyrrha, despite saying, going against the lesson of not carrying her with you, they probably won't do that bit, and she'll just give him the weapon, the will to fight on. The hero that you look up to is looking up to you, and they believe in you, so believe in yourself. Believe in the me that believes in you. The weapon of a hero you idolize telling you that you are good or better than them and they're proud of you, etc. I think that's what we're going to get. And also, I don't think he's staying behind in the Ever After either. If it were me, I would want his age to stay the same. But again, I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to go back on it. Although maybe he can keep his long hair. So, anyway, that's something, I guess, right? Next is the cat. What do I think happens? Well, I think he dies. I think we're feeding him to a Jabberwocker so that Jabberwocker gets to do something, and we get to beat the bad guy, which is very simple, and I'm unhappy about it. I want, obviously, not that. I want to keep the cat around. I've talked extensively about why it'd be such a good thing for the team. You know, my other theories aside or not, I really like the discussion we had about the importance of the cat and what they could learn from it. Actually, check this out. I wish I got this video out on time so it would match up exactly 2 years to the day, but it's only slightly off. Basically 2 years ago exactly. Look, 2 years ago, April 20th, I talked about the fact that Salem, like, thematically should have a cat, and if I made Salem, she would have a cat for the reasons listed here. Before we even knew the cat was a thing at all, so if I somehow called that from 2 years ago in the past, that would be amazing. Without retelling my theories and points top to bottom, you can go find them if you'd like. I'd just like to say that, yeah, we really could learn something from taking the cat with us, and even if it doesn't go to Salem, if it actually stays on side. Because that's pretty much what I would like to do, is for the cat to come back, and also come back as the actual cat, not in Neo or anything. That seems like what the cat sort of proposed to Alex, if that was possible. That it seems like, in the first go-through, he proposed Alex take him through with her to Remnant. The whole control method doesn't seem to work, but I don't think that was his plan with Alex. He only turned on Alex when she refused to take him, and I don't think it was, you know, open your mouth so I can, you know, take control of you to get through. I think he just intended her to carry him through. That, again, that should be the answer. That it's kindness over combat. That RWBY here realizes the suffering of the cat, and despite its wrongdoings, forgives it, and in an act of kindness takes him from his prison through the door, and because that's how it went, the door lets them through. That's like the lesson, you know, that is allowed to leave, because it ties into like a lesson for the cat. Your selfish drive won't answer your questions. You need to work together and form friendships, and believe in equals and trust in order to find the answers that you truly seek. It sounds close enough to a godly lesson to thematically work anyway. Selfish desire isn't the answer. Again, just like Salem, these parallels keep coming up. But yeah, I keep bringing it up because it's so precise, but if that was RWBY's approach, again, if she learned in the vision that seeing Summer against Salem, that combat isn't the answer, and goes back to the cat and realizes, stop fighting, combat isn't the answer. That's what I would like to happen, but I don't think so. But, be the cat dead or alive, that brings us to Neo, and I think she'll stay, one way or the other. I think that the answer of killing RWBY isn't the answer, so she won't try again when she sees RWBY again. Even if the cat is ejected from her, I think that's the point. Knowing it will do nothing to satiate what she's missing. I think that she might die, be it in combat or by choice, just that perhaps she's looking for ascension even. That she doesn't feel whole or complete as she is now. She has no answer to what she wants or needs. So she wants to find a new life, just like RWBY has just done in front of her. So maybe she willingly goes to the tree, sort of thing. We probably won't ever see her again, and honestly, I'm fine with that. And I really like Neo. I consider her my favourite character. Especially because she's kind of special and wasn't always in the show. But I have to admit that she seems like she's coming to an end here. It just feels like an endpoint character-wise as far as the character has gone. And as far as what I want, it's tricky. I wanted her to actually remain here, basically insane and lost in her delusions for the rest of time with her creations like Roman. A happy ending, but a sad ending because it's not real, but she doesn't know that and she's all deranged. And that's sort of a bad guy ending, trapped in madness. I felt that was a good ending. Doesn't look like that's happening now. I don't think she does all this and then goes back to her pretend. Unless that's the answer, like, her lesson or her comeuppance is that she has nothing left but to escape into fantasy. She can't even ascend because she doesn't know what she wants. That could be it. And she just sadly trudges back to her house and is welcomed back by her illusions and falls into the trap of just living there forever as long as she can, until it all comes to an end, and then she ascends into whatever she's learnt then, but we won't be anywhere near the story at that point. That could be it. I can still see poetry in that she just lays down, like, the arms and just leaves. Well, she should probably take her umbrella, but you get what I mean. My only problem with Neo ascending is that even though it would probably be implied we're never seeing her again, she's ascending, and whenever she finds the answers, hopefully she finds what she's looking for. But it would then hang over the story for the rest of time, that, and also, you know, 2 volumes later if we get there, maybe Neo will show up right at the end to help RWBY as a redemption. When will Neo show up? Maybe she'll show up again. And that's a precedent that's been set because she did it once before when she first disappeared, and that will get probably pretty old. And I don't want Neo being the new Penny either. I worry about how she'll be ascended too. If they give her a voice because that's a solution to her problems or something, that doesn't necessarily send the right message and it starts getting messy. So I think it gets pretty difficult to try and cover all your bases and do it justice. And just never bringing it back, people will cry, oh, they never had a plan, and didn't, even though the implication would be that is her end, that she's going to ascend and find some new purpose. But either way, the concept of Neo coming back with them as well, and joining them, is not great. She's too overpowered now, and even if some of these powers don't transfer back to Remnant, there's never been clear that that would be the case, and people would be questioning it. I just don't think we can have her around one way or another in the story. So, despite the negatives of it, I think I do want her to die and presumably ascend and we just never see her again. It will leave that question hanging over the rest of the series, but that's fine, and fanfiction writers will love it and can go wild with it. Either way, I think Neo ends here. The only fear is that, yeah, I've seen the lack of restraint with what they did with Penny, and I just don't want her to show up again if that is the case, as much as it hurts me to say as a fan of Neo. The rest of the team, Blake, Yang, Weiss, I think they'll be fine. I don't think anything should happen to them or that anything extraordinary will happen to them. I expect them all to fight the cat and hug RWBY, and that's about it. Actually, what I would like is one casual kiss for Blake and Yang before they go home. Maybe like a celebrate, like see you on the other side kiss and walk through. And I only say that because it will make the relationship feel a bit more real, a bit less dramatic. So it's not just the big giant kiss moment forever. They can just casually share a kiss without it being a huge deal and no comments or jokes on it. It just sort of happens. Getting them over that hurdle of like the big moment, that would be, I think, a good move. Next is Little. I expect Little to come back as a knight, a big mouse knight, probably. Maybe even keeping the name Little, which would then be funny and cute. The role as a guide is no longer needed for Little, so I think what they need now, and what they lacked, is a way to protect their friends. That's what Little couldn't do. So Little will become the new knight, taking the role of Jean once he leaves, protector of the ever after, something that they learned from their friends. Actually, wouldn't be surprised if Little got the killing blow on Neo, actually, because there isn't like a set rival for Neo. I know that she wants to kill RWBY, but RWBY doing it feels unnecessary, because I think we want RWBY to move away from just the idea of just murder all the bad guys. And it's kind of against the message. And RWBY doesn't hate Neo. It was all unintentional, really. She was confused more than anything. And Neo has tried to kill RWBY a lot, but RWBY never harbored that hatred back. So Jean and the others also didn't. So it would sort of make more sense if she took a mortal wound from Little, because it's repayment for what she did to him. And when she gets the mortal wound, the cat leaves the body because the body is dying, so I don't want to be trapped there, or maybe you can kill it. So, yeah, like, Neo gets stabbed by Little and spits up the cat, and Neo then shares some looks with the others and leaves or dies contentedly on the ground with, meaningful looks back and forth, and then moves to ascend. And Little stays in the ever after with the purpose learned from their friends to protect everybody. That's what I expect, and actually pretty much what I think I want too, so it's about as good as it can be. I don't expect Little to come back with them or anything like that. Giving them a purpose feels right. What's next? Juniper. I expect that Juniper is Alex, who helped save Jean originally. After Alex decided to fix everything but was then killed by the cat, she came back as a being to help right the wrongs that she did in life. The first of those being returning to where the poisoned Jean is now in this new form, and rescuing him by taking him back to the Paper People, which is the story that he told. And after that, she continued to repay her debts and help Jean by helping him save everyone in Ever After, look after Ever After, do the right thing, fight off that which wishes to destroy Ever After, keep the Afterans safe from any damage that was done to them. Now, having saved Jean, she completes her mission, her purpose, and she will ascend probably into a little girl again. If not, she could always stay as Juniper, and Little can be her rider now. Continue helping protect the Ever After. Perhaps she feels that's a duty further than Jean, that it continues on. That could be. Or yeah, perhaps she'll give herself to the tree to ascend again into something else. Maybe something for Ever After, but probably just back to being a person having fulfilled her debt. If that happens, I think she should come back with them. That might be nice to finally get her home, even though it's long time difference between the two. That again, she learned a lesson. She's finally forgiven herself for what she did and is ready to go home. Though I feel like it'll be kinda just like Neo, and they will start ascending, but we'll never get the answer. The blacksmith, I don't think is anything. I know a lot of people think she's Alex, and if she is, then she stays here and continues blacksmithing. Nothing really much changes, if that's the case. But yeah, that's about it. Lastly is where they end up, the big discussion we had earlier. I talked about my fears about them skipping Vacuo. However, I want to be hopeful. That video wasn't a prediction. I can see the "this didn't age well" comments appearing on it already, but it wasn't meant to be a prediction. It was a discussion and a fear I had about sort of pattern recognition and what they might be doing, but I hope I'm wrong about it. And just like I discussed in that video, perhaps this tree being connected to the brothers tree, which may have used to be in Vacuo, the details of that are in that video, thank you Dan, and yeah, if you're curious you can go check that out. But all that lines up quite well, so I'm going to be hopeful. My predictions and my wants are pretty much the same here, that they do go to Vacuo. It's where everyone's supposed to be, it's the setup place to go, so I'm hoping that's where we go. However, when we do go, I still feel like we need a hook. The best thing they can do to end the show is a hook. And I don't think showing Salem doing something is the good enough hook. It should be something they come back to they weren't expecting. The hook I've always said was Vacuo on fire, though I like the idea of it more mid-war than post-war these days. Sort of almost as a promise. We went through this slower but character-driven arc, and then they basically arrive back in a war with the promise of, when we come back, we're going to be in a fight. Like, we got to get up to date with everything. But, you know, maybe, maybe not. It just changes things into a very immediate, high-stakes conflict. So they could go with that. I think more, though, what is likely to happen is seeing Vacuo when we wake up. Like, we wake up in a desert, perhaps where, you know, the Brothers' Pool used to be. Maybe an image of the tree for a moment, making that clear. And we're in the desert, and then see a familiar face. Again, it's sort of a hook, but a softer hook. My guess is, like, sun. Like, they all just appear in the sand and, like, brush and sand off themselves, like, and they look around them, and then just, hey guys, and turn around and see sun, and then cut. That seems far more the RWBY style of way to do this, and all the details are then left up in the air. For all you know, there is a war going on, or there could have already been a war and they're picking themselves up, or they're preparing for one, or they have no idea. There could be anything. What I want, though, is something more. I want them to pop out near Vacuo and, like, Tyrion is right there, and right at the last second, RWBY gets knocked out, and you see her, like, you know, black out, and we have no idea when she's gonna wake up or what situation they'll be in. Or Salem is right there, like, face to face, and captures them. Oh no, RWBY's gonna start next volume, like, captured. But most likely it'll just be like Sun or Coco, or Winter sees them. Though imagine this, right? Winter is there, like you see the back of Winter, and it turns and sees them, and she waves at them, and she's shocked for a second, and then bam, she gets, like, stabbed through the back. Like, Cinder's sword comes out her chest, like, mortally wounded, and we don't see what happens. And then, is Winter dead or dying? The Maiden Powers are now up in the air, Cinder's right here, there's like a war or something happening. Questions, 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 and no answers till next volume. That would be really cool. You know, are the Maiden Powers going to go straight to Weiss because she's looking at her, or all these crazy questions? They could do something like that, but I think they won't end it on that kind of note. Other than that, I talked about a time skip. That is also a great hook. That they get home and, like, Jean sees the back of Ren and Nora, you know, the green and pink, and goes, "Oh, thank you, I've missed you guys," and puts a hand on the shoulder, and as they turn around, they're like 10 years older and look like he did in the Ever After. There would actually be a really fun irony to that too, that Jean just went through this magical process to undo all this aging, and when he gets back he realizes he should have kept it to be on par with his team. That would just be interesting, but, you know. The biggest thing I see against that is Sailor wouldn't wait 10 years to attack. She's got the relics and stuff. Maybe, but maybe she wants to rebuild her army again. She did lose a lot of forces against Atlas and the Whale and everything. And just let the panic of RWBY's message run rampant around the world for a while, and maybe even stay away so people then think, was that a lie? And there's distrust, you know, through everything, and a way to rebuild her forces. It's true she has the stuff of creation, but I don't think you can use that to make an army of individuals, especially like a Grimm thing, since of what it is. But either way, you can just win pretty much everything with the staff, but I think we're supposed to assume she isn't going to use the staff like that just for the story. Anyway, I do like the time skip idea. The same thing works if it was RWBY and Oscar. Like, RWBY walks in and sees what looks like, you know, someone in green, they turn around and it's Oscar, and he's, like, taller than she is now, and looks more like Ozpin did, like his hairstyle and stuff. That you could do something like that. That would be very dramatic. I mean, yeah, I might even imply that Oscar is totally gone, and it's just the Oz personality almost, or Oscar's pushed right to the back and all that happened while you were away. I really like that as like a confronting, like, oh my god, and you don't get the answers. But either way, I don't know. I feel like they're definitely going to have some kind of hook. I just don't know how dramatic they're going to go with it. And obviously, this is the part with the most speculative points. I can just keep throwing out ideas of what could be. But I'm really excited to see what they do with it, so that's a positive note to end on. Because that's all there is to it. That's all the elements of the finale up in the air. One more day. What do you all think will happen? Let me know, and I'll see you in the finale video. Until then, my name is Rigger, hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.